Poland, ranked 26th in the world by FIFA, have now qualified for their 8th World Cup finals, with their first appearance coming before World War II. And then after a 36-year wait, they would come into the golden age of the 70s and 80s. In France, 1938, their very first appearance at the World Cup, they would have the privilege of being promised only one game, due to a number of last-minute changes and the Austrians withdrawing. The small number of teams competing meant the fearsome Brazilians had to be defeated if Poland were to merit another match. A team of amateurs who had a week to train together gave the South Americans all they can handle and then some in a 6-5 overtime thriller. Wilimowski netted 4 times by himself, but his heroics would only be enough to go down in Polish football history, but not see them move on. 36 long years would pass us by before the Poles found themselves back on the world stage, and oh how they were back in Germany, 1974. It's worth noting that the England manager called the Poland keeper a clown before the pivotal qualifying match in 1973. Before that clown stood on his head and the Polish went to West Germany at the expense of the very same English. Considered by some as the best team in this tournament, the Poles would run through the first group with 3 wins over the likes of Argentina and Italy, as well as a thrashing of minnows Haiti. Their 2 wins over Sweden and Yugoslavia were enough to see them into the proverbial semi-final versus the hosts, but a Gerd Muller late goal was enough to send the Poles to the 3rd place game against the Brazilians. They would triumph for an inspiring 3rd place finish. In Argentina, 1978, some considered the team that Poland took down to be even better than the men from 4 years previous. This tournament was another cup featuring the 2 group stage format, and the Polish topped their group, including revenge against the West Germans, despite holding them to a 0-0 draw. Through to the 2nd group stage would see the 3rd place finishers from the previous tournaments once again face the Brazilians and also the hosts. Despite a loss to Argentina, a win versus Peru gave them a shot, but the Samba Kings proved too much for the Eastern Europeans, and another semi-final wasn't meant to be. Another tournament to feature the 2 group stage format in 1982, Spain is considered by some to be the best edition ever. It certainly started well for the Polish, who recorded the only win by any team in their group to finish first. With more teams come more games, and the 3-team group of Poland, Soviet Union, and Belgium was won by Poland, whose convincing win, which included legend Boniak's hat trick over the Belgians, was enough to see them through to the semi-finals against Italy. A 2-0 defeat dropped them to the 3rd place game once again, where they triumphed over France 3-2 for another proud 3rd place. The last of the golden years for the Polish came down in Mexico, 1986. Some of the squad of yesteryear were aging, but there was still some fight left in them in a tough group with England, Morocco, and Portugal. Despite finishing 3rd in the group, they would qualify for the knockout stages, where they would meet a familiar World Cup foe. The Brazilians showed no mercy, and the Poles would bow out of the World Cup for some time to come. 16 years on, and the Polish found themselves in a tough group with the co-hosts in South Korea 2002, not to mention the Americans and the fierce Portuguese. 2 damaging defeats in the first matches meant the game against the United States was simply for the badge. They would show up with a nice win against a rested side who had already advanced to the group stage, despite losing this one 3-1, sending the Polish home before the knockout stages. Once again, in the hosts group in 2006, they had a tough go of it against the Ecuadorians, and were just edged by the Germans in the 2nd game, before they were to meet the Costa Ricans in a match that had no meaning other than representing your nation on the highest level. A trend is noticeable in these past 3 World Cups where the performance isn't good enough in the opening 2 matches, and a meaningless win follows in the 3rd game. But 12 years on, they were in a weird group with Colombia and Japan and Senegal. It would once again leave the Polish bottom and going home with nothing but pride at having won the final match. The Polish are back in Qatar for this edition of the World Cup. Robert Lewandowski and company will need to channel the spirits of the golden generation. The likes of Gregor Zlato, Andrzej Sarmak, and Boniek, all heroes of the Polish game. They have an interesting group in the next few days featuring Leo Messi and the Argentinians, the Saudi Arabians, and a strong Mexico side. Can the Barcelona goal machine step up for his nation and lead the Poles back to the former heights with a deep run in